You met Andy Rourke, I think, when you were 10 or
Yeah,
11 or 12. I mean, he would go on to, of course, become the bassist for the Smiths. And you had early bands, a few early bands with him. But take me into like your, I don't know, bedroom or like the places you'd like try to work out what you wanted your music to sound like when you were a teenager. Like you get a guitar, you learn how to play it. By 19, which we're going to
yeah.
get to in a minute, like you're creating music that is going to be listened to around the world. But before we get there, how are you working out that sound? Like, was it with
Yeah.
Andy? Was it with other people? Were you going to other people's homes and just like kind of just
Yeah.
playing around
Well,
with
because
sounds?
Andy and I first started playing in earnest around 14, although first time we ever played together, I went to his house, we were 11 or 12. So Andy and I were best friends, kind of still are really. Well, yes, we are, and which is amazing. And we both encouraged each other. We're very different people. I sped him up, and he kind of calmed me down. And he was a really good guitar player, but I always had the plan, and I was like, okay, well, he was great on the bass, so I was like, well, you're amazing to play the bass. But so what happened was we had first we started off playing, and I was writing songs, and it was me and a couple of pals, just to give people some kind of idea of what we sounded like. We used to do American Girl, so we had that kind of twin guitar
Yeah.
jangle sort of thing, that kind of thing, which
Yeah.
I'm very happy they're still a big part of what I do now. But I was the singer in those bands, really just because I had the best haircut, which is a decent enough reason to be a frontman when you're 14 anyway. And also I was able to come up with words, so that was that. And then at the same time, I got kind of headhunted to be, this is still going into 15. You got to understand, this is what we regarded that band called Paris Valentinos. That we regarded that as our day job. That school was kind of interfering with.
Yeah.
But then, whilst I was doing that, a band who'd made a record called Sister Ray, who were adults, and I think, without being too disrespectful, even they'd admit that they were reprobates. They made an approach to me through a friend and said they wanted me to be in their band, and they really talked me into it. And they were a scary bunch of dudes, but they sounded, and they'd made a record. So I said to my pals, look, I'm going to go and join Sister Ray for a bit. And they were all up, fine, you're working us too hard anyway. I was like a bit of a kind of driver. And Andy was just my pal and was like, Johnny, go and do it. That's fine. So I went in and joined this band with adults called Sister Ray when I was 15. And so now when I'm asked, or in my mind now, I regard kind of that as when I started being a professional musician, when I joined a band with adults at 15. So I did that, and I was with those guys for probably about a year, and then they just got too crazy for me. I did one show, and the rest of the Valentinos came to the show, and after the show, I thought, I just want to be with my own band. And I also wanted to get back to singing. We started rehearsing, and I got back to writing my own songs. I was living with Andy at the time, with him and his brothers, with no parents around, no adults. Rather.
Why did you do that? Were you having conflicts with your parents?
And Andy's parents, unfortunately but conveniently, had split up, and we had a free house. So it was a very bohemian opportunity. Does that make sense? It was like we were able to rehearse. We were able to rehearse. Me and his brothers, his other brothers played guitar. Andy and I lived there often. And we smoked lots of pot and listened to records and dissected them and stayed up all night. Andy became an amazing bass player overnight.
Yeah, but I mean, certainly not like a formula for like a stable life, right? Like a 15-year-old kid,
No.
Yeah, I mean, you probably maybe in your head you thought, yeah, I'll be a professional musician. That's what I'll do one day. But like, the chances of that happening were still pretty slim. I mean, were you convinced that you could make a career out of this already at 15?
No, a life, but not a career. No, of course not. I genuinely was not that so sure of myself. I was very driven, was just. I've got to say, as I became an adult, I look back and I identified that a lot of that drive was desperation, because my dreams, and honestly, when I say my dreams, I don't mean swimming pools and big cars. My dreams were to play, and the main dream was to make records. The actual performing,
Yeah.
the thing that most musicians, their go-to is to stand on a stage and show off. I genuinely, that was not my main motivator. My main motivator was putting these mosaics of guitars together with really interesting singing. And the performing bit back then, I've changed now, was just kind of a necessary part of the job, really.
If you like this clip and you want to watch another one, click right here. And if you want to watch the entire episode, click right here.